Hi, my name is Dakota Rice, and I'm the CEO and founder of a company called plight. plight is a platform that aims to democratize access to the very best venture capital, hedge funds, and private equity funds in the world. I'm also a student at Harvard Business School, but today I'm making this video not about either one of those things. I'm creating this video because I think it's incredibly important during Black History Month to shed light on the experience of what it means and what it's like to be a Black entrepreneur in today's ecosystem. I think I'm going to talk about a number of different things across various videos through this month, but one of the main things I want to talk about today is why I think it's particularly difficult to pursue entrepreneurship when you're Black, and the obligation, truly, that I think the venture ecosystem has to make this experience much easier, because I think that getting through that and making that barrier to entry much lower is the best way to get an abundance of the best ideas out there and fundamentally change the world that we live in. And I think one of the key things about being Black in America that's incredibly difficult is you grow up trying to assimilate to a system that you're constantly told and shown in so many different ways doesn't exactly think of you first, right? Or you're not prioritized in that system. You get so excited when you finally hack through it because it feels so unimaginable. I think back to my time as when I was growing up, when I was in high school. I think back to when I was applying to Brown. I had a teacher who told me in high school that I shouldn't waste my time applying to Brown, that it was a pipe dream. And of course, I ended up getting accepted into Brown, had a great experience, left there, and ultimately went to Goldman Sachs. But when I was younger also, I asked my grandmother, I told my grandma, and she asked, you're going to college, what do you want to do? I had talked about wanting to work on Wall Street. I said I wanted to work at Goldman Sachs specifically. I said, this is my dream, I want to work at Goldman Sachs. My grandma told me that I should be more realistic. She believed in me more than I ever believed in myself. But my grandma grew up in a time of integration. She grew up textbook, going to school, protests, all of the issues with busing, just the story of integration in America was very difficult. And so for her, a woman who was unable to even pursue the political science degree that I ultimately ended up pursuing when I was at Brown, because she was Black, it just was something she couldn't do. And so for her to imagine that I would be able to go work on Wall Street or move to New York or to do any of the things that I ultimately ended up accomplishing seemed incredibly unrealistic. And so I think there are so many people who get that same messaging along the way, and they have that reinforced by so many things societally. But I also think other barriers that intersect with Blackness also start to come to be. I think, for example, I'm working in fintech. It's incredibly regulated. These funds are regulated by 40s Act, and when you go and you pitch and you talk about getting money for your venture, people want to see the value you've created and really de-risking a lot of this stuff. And when you have lawyers in this space, the best lawyers, like the ones I'm using, are costing over $1,000 per hour. I'm lucky that I am privileged enough to be able to do that. I certainly grew up very low income, and this would have been completely impossible had I not gone through the trajectory I did. But I start to think to myself, what if I hadn't had this unique set of experiences, some my hard work, but also some luck to get through the system that just, if you look at what the statistics say about Black people in finance, just not there. And so I think that it's our obligation, it's the obligation. I say our because I very much consider myself to still be a part of this ecosystem and venture ecosystem and tech ecosystem. And I think it's our obligation as a community to really stand up and bring down the barriers to that entrepreneurship. And I like to really think of it like this. To be an entrepreneur, you have to be able to fictionalize the world around you. You have to imagine that some product that you've never seen, that the world's never seen, a market the world's never seen, is just going to happen. And you have to believe in yourself enough to get up and go stump the ground and tell everybody in the world that thing is going to happen. And quite frankly, when you're Black and you exist in this body, that is not a simple thing to do. And I don't think that we can go back and change history. I don't think that we can go back and make sure that every Black boy and girl that grow up, boy, girl, or non-binary person that grows up in this country can feel that fictionalization, that ability to fictionalize. I think it comes from privilege. But what I do think that we can do when people are in these ecosystems and when they are bringing up these ideas, I think we can do a lot more tangible things to actually help them as they continue to grow. And so I'm going to talk about a number of them. I think today, one I'll mention that I think is a really interesting proposal is that maybe law firms should create, or venture capital firms and law firms should work together to establish funds for maybe students at HBCUs or other Black entrepreneurs, entrepreneurs of colors, anybody from marginalized communities can access some of these funds so that they can help to de-risk their businesses such that when they, so that they really can go and talk about these things very confidently, knowing that there is a great legal underpinning. I think it's particularly important in fintech, where regulation is incredibly difficult, but it's really, I believe, is fundamentally the most important place for people of color and people from marginalized communities to innovate, because I think the only way that you're going to be able to see a more equitable financial system is by redefining it and recreating it. And if those voices aren't in the room, I don't think we'll ever reach our full potential in this tech ecosystem. And I don't think we can really say if only money is flowing through to the privileged few, that we've been that successful in democratizing access to entrepreneurship and innovation.